Exceptional Radio. Exceptional Randos show is produced live in Sunroom Studios' Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening. Wow, that was random. Exceptional Radio. Good evening. It's the 15th of October, and it's getting chilly out. Right now, it's a balmy 47 degrees, and it's kind of raining. In local news, there have been 3 accidents at the bottom of the hill that I live on top of within the last 4 days. And I'm pretty sure it's idiots driving too fast, of course. But in lighter, more interesting news, or not news, I think this would be more of a methodology. Over the years, I have found myself driving in the mornings and hungry and stopping at McDonald's for their steak, egg, and cheese bagel. And I realized that a steak at McDonald's is kind of like a true what the fuck moment. But hear me out, because it might be their best breakfast sandwich, because it's basically a burger with some special sauce, an egg, cheese, onion, and it's pretty good. I gotta say, it's the one that keeps me coming back for McDonald's breakfast when I have limited options. Anyways, in this time of COVID, where I never find myself driving during breakfast hours, I took it upon myself to try and divine the steak, egg, and cheese bagel. And of course, a bagel is really easy. Throw it in the toaster, give it some butter. The timing is key though, because the burger part actually takes a while. And I substitute a burger for a steak because I'm not sure where to get a McDonald's steak, and I'm not really sure there's that much difference between their steak and one of their actual burgers, or a frozen burger from Kroger for that matter. And I've decided that the secret isn't the special sauce that they put on it. It's actually the like the seasoning salt, like Lowry's seasoning salt that you put on a hamburger before you throw it on the grill. So lightly season the pan, and then put the burger down, and then season the other side. And the trick now isn't necessarily to wait a long time. It's the tablespoon of butter that I throw into the pan. So once the first side starts to look like it's done, I flip it over, and then I add a couple tablespoons of chopped onion and stir that around, get it nice and coated in butter and beef juice and some of that seasoning salt. And then I get a tablespoon of water, and then I put that down right on top of it, so it kind of steams. It helps speed it along. And once those are done, I remove the burger and I remove the onions, and I put the onions inside a beat up egg. So take your egg, beat it. You all know how to beat an egg. Throw the onions in there, then put that into your pan. And then once that starts to cook, we're going to treat it like an omelet. Fold the edges into itself so it turns into a square. I'm sorry, I got to take a step back. Put some shredded cheese down on top of it, and then fold the edges in so it looks like a square. And once that's ready, set that on top of the beef patty, and then put that between the bagel, and bada bing, bada boom, you've got a home-style steak, egg, and cheese bagel. And I didn't miss the special sauce that they use, which I'm pretty sure is just garlic, butter, and seasoning salt. Because I already had seasoning salt and butter, and I didn't really think garlic was going to help anything. Anyways, I've made this for myself 3 times in the last few days, and every time I get a little bit closer to that sensation, like, man, I think I nailed it. And tonight it was absolutely perfect because I didn't start my bagel until I pulled the onions and the patty out of the skillet. This is a one skillet operation too. And holy crap, I think I might have just figured out how to make my favorite breakfast sandwich.
Well, I think when you talked about the timing of the bagel, there's definitely something to making sure the bread doesn't get cooked too much when you're working with multiple ingredients. And I think
Absolutely.
Um, Sometimes people don't necessarily pay attention to if the bread is cooking too long and then it gets fucked up.
Yeah, it
Like,
gets really hard. It gets almost rubbery, leathery, cardboard like
mm,
if you leave the bagel in too long. And if it doesn't if you put it in too late, then the egg patty portion of the dish starts to cool too much. There's definitely a optimal window of opportunity to get that juicy patty and egg combination on top of the bagel so that the bagel can absorb some of that flavor. Because once that starts to cool down, the butter starts to cool down. It won't penetrate into the bagel as much. That onion flavor, it well, it's sealed in at that point, and the egg will dry out. Nobody wants a dry egg.
yeah, that's another part of it. You have to make sure the egg doesn't dry out or get overcooked.
Yeah, the egg portion is actually really fast because when I did it tonight, uh, my pan was still really hot. So I dropped the egg in there and it just kind of puffed up. And at that point, I threw the cheese on, counted to like 10, and started folding it over on itself. And that finished melting all the cheese. It was great. I feel really pleased with myself now that I don't have to, get in line at McDonald's to have a breakfast sandwich.
I found a lot of times the secret to making the shit whatever you're trying to make, whether it's a bagel, a steak, egg and cheese bagel, or a chicken sandwich, it's gonna be butter. And almost universally, they just put so much extra butter on whatever it is that it makes it taste amazing. So,
Yeah. Well, I found that, the difference between a steak cooked at home and a steak at a steakhouse is definitely the butter.
well, and I've also learned on that same note, if you're cooking a steak, a lot of times you want to cook it in half butter, half oil, um, and get the pan and the oil hot before you actually put the steak in, and
Oh
that's
yeah,
kind of, but it has to be half butter, and it just makes it such a different.
yeah. I think the butter itself is the reason that we get that brown, that browned toasty goodness, that kind of nutty flavor. That it's not obvious why it's there until you see it done, and then you realize how much butter you actually have to use to get that to form properly. And I'm not talking about like packing on the seasoning so there's this very clear crust that you almost have to chisel through. I mean, like it still cuts with the knife. It still tastes like your cut of meat. It's not a crust of seasoning, which I I've had that before. I've been to restaurants where there was that whole like get rid of the fats phase where they just decided to get rid of all fats and just use lots of salt. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
thinking like I can't taste anything. But interestingly, butter, it's got like a very low caloric processing value. Like you can actually consume quite a bit of butter, and as long as you maintain a regular amount of activity, your body will process it. Whereas the vegetable fat based ones, margarine, I believe, I think that requires like 200 something calories to process a gram of it. And that's kind of unreal to me.
Well, and then that's where people don't end up processing it, and it gets caked in their arteries because they don't work out enough to actually process it, and that's kind of where plaque build up in the arteries and fat. Obviously, as the cause is one of those things that Americans are habitually bad about monitoring because I just don't think they understand what that actually means when you're saying you have to burn 200. It takes 200 calories to like process 1 gram. It's like
I'm sorry,
You don't,
it's 3 grams, and
regardless,
it's only a
whatever.
hundred. It's only 100 calories. So I was way off.
That's not that far off.
No, it really isn't. We can go through 200 calories just being active, cleaning the house.
But you have to actually clean the house to go through those 200 calories, which is a
Exactly.
lot of people don't do, and it ends up they consume 2,000 plus calories a day and don't actually burn any calories because they've been taught incorrectly that humans need 2,000 calories a day, but that's only if you're actually active.
Yeah.
Like you don't need 2,000 calories a day if you're sitting in an office. You just don't. And people have not grasped that yet. They think, "Oh, I'm awake, I'm up, I'm doing stuff." Well, are you actually physically active? Then you might only need like 1,500 calories or 1,600 calories that day. Like I know, unless I do a long workout that's at least an hour, I don't usually break 2,000 calories. Like I
Man,
get close.
man, I've tried to hit 2,000 calories in a day, and I always feel stuffed. And then the next morning, wake up and I feel like crap. And then
I
when
mean, it's difficult to hit 2,000 if you're making your own food, but it's really easy to hit it if you're not making your own food.
oh, that's a good point. That's actually a really good point.
Like one meal, if you eat out, can be 1,100, 1,400 calories if you're not, especially if you're getting full calorie soda, because the sodas are 200, 300 calories in the non-diet. Because that's, I don't drink diet soda because I'm on a diet. I drink it because there's so many empty calories in the sodas that you might be drinking 300 calories on accident if you get the wrong soda.
See, soy milk has 131 calories for 1 cup for 8 ounces. Sprite,
That's full fat. There's probably like low fat soy milk too,
yeah.
which probably doesn't have near as many calories. It's the same thing with whole versus 1% milk. I think the whole like a serving of whole milk. I think it might be. I mean, I can look it up, but it's significantly higher than 1% or no fat.
In a single serving of whole milk, there are 70 calories from fat and 150 total.
Yep.
And
Yeah, that's
a
like
how much is a serving of milk though? I bet it's
I
something
think
dumb like
8 ounces.
8 ounces. Man, these are the things that I don't think anyone actually. I don't think about this stuff very often because I.
That's the difference between whole milk and 2% in your coffee. Those, if you drink 2 ounces of milk in your coffee, well, every cup of coffee you're adding those extra calories, even though you barely taste it, and that's kind of, I like you if you add enough whole milk, you can taste it in your coffee, but you have
Yeah.
to add enough, and then the calories start sticking even more.
So 2% milk. No, no, 1% milk has 110 calories. 2% has 130 calories, and fat-free milk has 90 calories.
Yep, it's almost half.
Wow.
So
Wow.
there's just so many places where you're getting empty calories. Well, I won't say milk is empty necessarily
Well,
because
it's
it
got
actually has nutritious value.
it has
But
protein. So
right, but they add sugar in it, and when you can get the same amount of protein with the half the calories, it's empty calories.
yeah.
Still, it's like it's still even if there's nutritional value, that's why they're called empty calories because you can get that thing, and the only reason you're getting the extra calories is for the flavor.
Mm,
And this is the difference between a burger with butter on it and a burger that's only seasoning. The burger with butter is going to taste better, but it's because of those empty calories that are there simply for flavor. and that have no nutritional value.
Yeah.
And that's why when you do that shit, it's like an extra 200, 300 calories with no nutritional value that you then have to burn off. But a lot of people don't actually go to the step to burn it off, and it just it accumulates.
Let's see here. I'm gonna try to roughly calculate my sandwich.
The burger patty doesn't actually have that many calories in it.
No, it's like
Um, Amazingly, it doesn't.
yeah. It's according to the internet, a 100-gram frozen patty has 204 calories.
Almost about as much as a little over a glass of milk. How crazy is that? You wouldn't think that, right?
No.
That doesn't even sound right. But apparently, 25% more, 125% of the cup of milk.
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. Let's see. 78
But then that's where you wouldn't think the buns are are as many calories as the patty, but they are. In some cases, the buns might be more calories than the patty themselves, depending on how they get treated too.
yeah.
Okay.
Why is this being so weird? There we go. Plus 78. Clear everything.
And again, this is where so I just had a triple bacon cheeseburger and the sandwich alone was probably about 700 calories, maybe 800, maybe even more than that. But it wasn't 2000. I can guarantee it wasn't 2000. And that's damn near the only thing I'll eat today. So if you can do it correctly, you can eat a triple bacon cheeseburger and still have a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
But that's like the only thing you can eat that day, and you have to still work out.
Okay, so for the bagel, the internet returns 245 calories, 4 calories for a tablespoon of onion, 78 calories for an egg, 204 for the patty, and 102 calories for a tablespoon of butter. And that totals to 633 calories. And I'm almost positive that the price for me to make that was considerably less than going to McDonald's, even though I have to buy more of the ingredients at one time, and when it's divided out amongst or across the total amount of sandwiches that I can make, I bring my cost, and I don't have to drive to McDonald's. Still, 633 calories. That doesn't seem like a lot.
That's less than half of the sandwich I just had
Yeah.
because the sandwich I just had is roughly like 1400. I'm looking right now, which again, it's like I earned that shit today. But the only time I'll eat a 1400 calorie sandwich is if I'm already at like a 1400 calorie deficit for that day. And
Well,
then you break and don't get fat
according
and you're
to
fine.
McDonald's, their sandwich only has 680 calories. Hmm.
Huh.
I know that my bagel is superior
Check
though.
it. McDonald's sandwiches are not actually that high in calories. Where they get you is the fries.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
And that's where I always ended up. If I haven't gone to McDonald's in a while, but if I ever went there, I would always avoid their fries, and I'd get two sandwiches and still be under 1,000 calories.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Like you just have to hack these caloric um
Traps.
yeah, they're definitely caloric traps because they try to get you with the drink first off, and then the fries will always catch you. But if you can avoid the drink and the fries, fast food isn't that terrible. It's really not, and that's where you just have to not get the terrible options.
Like the McGriddle, the pancake slathered in syrup sandwich.
Exactly. I think the McGriddle. Oh my God, that's one of the traps. Um, I think the yeah 448 calories on the sandwich alone, or 550.
Oh man,
If you got a breakfast sandwich alone with the 550, that's not counting the hash brown and it's not counting the orange juice.
you know
So
what's
already,
what's cool about the steak, egg, and cheese bagel is that I never needed the hash browns. It's like actually a filling sandwich because of the bagel, I think. But I've never felt satisfied by the McGriddle. It only just made me want to pass out, and like not in a satisfied kind of way, in like a all the blood is rushing from my brain to my stomach to process this giant wad of starch.
yeah, I enjoyed the flavor, but I did not enjoy that feeling you're describing. That's
Yeah,
why, yeah, no, man, that had to stay away from that shit.
it's pretty incredible. I think what I mean, what kind of focus group comes up with that? I mean, like, who thinks that's actually a good idea? I mean, I feel like that's the kind of thing that somebody who's driving on a long road trip early in the morning, they're hungry. Oh, I think I'll get a McGriddle. Next thing you know, they're driving on the interstate 70, 80 miles an hour and they're nodding off because that thing just sapped all their blood.
That's exactly that person too, and they end up getting in crashes and then not knowing why, and then their insurance covers it. So that person never learns the lesson and goes back to McDonald's after the insurance just bought them a brand new car, and they do it all over again.
Speaking of so like I said earlier, there have been three accidents in the last 4 days. Um, the first one on Monday night, it was like an SUV and a car. And then the second one a couple days ago was a car. And today it was like a fairly new Camry that just went off the road. And the sheriff's out there talking to this guy, and they're just chumming it up. Like, are you hurt? Nope. Okay, well, the wrecker's on their way. And I always wonder because, like, I mean, there's at least one accident at the bottom of this hill every month once it starts getting really nasty out. And there's maybe two accidents at the top of the hill right next to my house every winter, right around the time it gets really nasty. And I always wondered, it's like, what's the actual threshold before the city or the county does something to mitigate the number of vehicle incidents? Because it can't. It every spring there's a new cross with a wreath at the bottom of the hill that this says "in loving memory," and in a different spot too. Like, I mean, you can see the old ones because they're all deteriorating, but every year there's like at least one new one, which means someone dies.
Yeah, I don't know what it takes, man. If multiple people have died at that spot and they're not doing anything about it, I can't imagine that they'll ever do anything about it at that point. But that's the same population that allows all these people to die from COVID and because they don't want to wear the mask.
Yeah. Well, how it all started, right? It's like, oh, it's only 15 people, it'll go away, and then it was like, what, 10,000 people, and it's like, well, it'll be gone in 2 months, it'll just vanish, and then 100,000 people, and then 200,000 people, and now they project like 300,000 people by November, and Cheeto goes on and says, oh, it's only 2 million people were infected, but it could have been 2 million dead, and so that's okay. Like, ah. And these people still go out without masks.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever go back to a maskless society, and I'm fine with that. But it's also one of these things where I haven't really gotten sick all year from contagious diseases, so or viruses for that matter, in that when this one thing has shifted everybody's behavior and there's all these other byproducts or side because I don't want to call them side effects. It's like a positive byproduct. I'm fine with that, but the fact that these people are out there and we have to coexist with them, we're not being. I mean, you and I obviously are, but the left is not being critical enough of the populace that wants to commit manslaughter through negligence, and we can't describe it as anything but that. They just want to commit manslaughter because these are the same people that fantasize about zombie apocalypses so they can shoot their neighbors and they can shoot black people and not have any repercussion with it. That's why they fantasize about the post-apocalyptic lawless scenario because they want to kill people. They just don't want any repercussions, and that's where when they know, oh, we killed 200,000 mostly black and Hispanic people through our negligence. Yeah, I'm going to act like this was because I didn't want to wear a mask because really deep down they want to kill people. So that's kind of where I don't think we can discuss it in any other way. Otherwise, it creates this false scenario as if both sides are logical when one side's literal murderous Nazis and we can't be acting like we need to reach across the aisle to murderous Nazis.
Yeah.
I think we can't reach across the aisle to that at that point.
Oh, I agree completely. At some point, we have to acknowledge that there's more. Language is nuanced, and it's not just as simple as the words that are coming out of my mouth. There's context that's important, and when people don't recognize the things that they're saying or how their behavior is actually going to be interpreted, it yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder. Is this willful ignorance or are they intentional? And on some level, when people do it over and over and over again, and have been offered numerous opportunities to expand their understanding of a situation, and they just keep opting for putting their head in the sand, it makes me wonder. It's like, well, maybe they're not actually doing this, the head in the sand part. Maybe it's very intentional, and they are aware of what they're doing, and they are, they're actually going for it.
No, I tend to think it's the latter, in that
Yeah.
it's too persistent and pervasive to be an accident. And I think that's also why when you have the Diane Feinstein or Feinstein, I don't know how you pronounce it, the
Oh, this.
plantation trader that she is that work with the white supremacists and then pretend that they're on the left wing. That's why we have the same white supremacist institutions in 2020 because of the Feinsteins.
Uh, I'm not very familiar with her. She's a senator in California, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, California.
She's the one that told a bunch of kids that she's been in Congress or in politics for 30 years, so she knows better than them as to why they can't get any green politics and green change done. She had the nerve to tell some kids that shit as if she's putting them in their place because she's a fucking piece of shit, is
Man,
what it
she's
is.
she's 87.
Yeah, fuck her. She needs to be in a goddamn nursing home somewhere.
She's been a senator since 1992. She was
Yeah,
the mayor of San Francisco from 78 to 88.
she needs to be in a fucking nursing home. Not because she's old, because her mind's gone and she's a fucking racist and she's pretending to be on the left. This is what we get. We got somebody that was around during fucking Jim Crow pretending to be on the left. He need to be in a goddamn nursing home.
Mm.
And I'm being nice. That's me being nice.
Well, I think that we've got quite a few senators, well, congressional representatives who are all really old. I mean, the average age in Congress is 57.8 years for senators, and it's 61.8 is the oldest average. The oldest member of Congress is Dianne Feinstein. Huh. Let's see here.
Go figure.
Yeah. Average age. How old is Congress? That's not the
Yeah,
70.
the whole
Holy
reason
shit! 78 senators are over the age of 65. 147 are over the age of 65.
whole reason I'm flaming her today is because she was like, there's a picture of her out with a loving, warm embrace of Lindsey Graham. Just they're just such great old friends, and they look like they could probably be related.
The Guardian says America has become a genrontocracy. Gerontocracy. There we go. The average age of congressional representatives is 59, with leaders in their 70s and 80s. Yeah, how old is Chuck Schumer? He's 69. Let's see, Nancy. Nancy's 80. Um,
Good God.
Mitch
Good
McConnell is 78. Let's see how old
man.
is Ted Cruz? He's a slime
All
ball.
people's grandparents, and in some
Oh, he's
cases
only
great
49.
grandparents. These some of these people are fucking great grandparents,
Yeah.
and they're Congress. This is our Congress.
Mm. JoJo is 78. Uh, Cheeto is 74. Let's see how old Evangelical Skeletor is.
Evangelical Skeletor.
He's 61.
Still can't grow a beard.
Oh man.
somebody, if somebody paid him $1 trillion, he could not grow a beard.
Oh man. Yeah.
Straight up. I can tell you can tell when people can grow beards because they get 5 o'clock shadows. And in some cases, some people get 5 o'clock shadows after like 5 minutes. Some people, when you have that baby face chin that looks like a razor has never touched it in his life, it probably hasn't.
So do you think he uses Nair or like does he
I don't
wax?
think he's ever shaved. Straight up, I don't think he's ever shaved his chin area. He might have shaved his mustaches, but I don't even know about that. Because usually when people shave their upper lip, it's you can see it. You can see remnants of people shaving. It's not something that you can't have a smooth face all the time unless you just never shave. That's the that's the key for a man's face. And if you never shave and you start growing hair, then it's gonna look stupid. It's gonna look patchy and fucked, and you'll never have a clear face either. So there's only a couple of ways that you can be 61 and have a smooth ass chin like that. And it's because he never grew a beard. Dude has no blemishes on his face because he never cut himself. He never had acne from ingrown hairs. Like you don't get to be 61 and not have those blemishes on your chin as a person who has testosterone and follicular predisposition to grow a beard if you're so inclined. because my chin is not. I don't get acne at all, like hardly. And I have like if I shave my face,
Man,
there's no way it's gonna look like a baby face for more than 24 hours. It's just not how that shit works when you're.
I'm 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 scanning the internet for, you know, Mike Pence mustache in quotes, and nothing. Like nothing. It doesn't exist.
I don't think that dude's ever had any facial hair. He might have never had any facial hair. He might have. Well, I don't think he has alopecia
I mean,
because
there's a
he
picture of
hasn't.
him on CNN where it looks like he may have had a mustache, but it also looks like it's just the lighting.
Oh yeah, because he has dark eyebrows. So if he had any sort of stubble, that shit would you'd see that shit immediately.
You know, it doesn't help that all of the images of him are like low res or slightly out of focus. I can't find
See,
one
he
picture of him in focus.
he can grow a mustache. You can see he has some sort of like that's why his upper lip is slightly lighter than the rest of his face. You can tell he can. I can tell he can grow a mustache from looking at his face. Beard, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah, man. I just
Like he might. There's a he might be able to do like the like shit right below your mouth.
oh, the goatee,
Not quite a goatee.
the soul patch.
Yeah, like basically a soul patch that goes all the way across his lip. That's why it's not really. It's hard to. Nobody really does that. But those are the only two real places on his face that have look like they've been shaven frequently.
So he'd have like a German chancellor facial hair package.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's all. Yeah. No, you're right, man. All they need is a monocle or some shit. Then
Ooh, Mike Pence with monocle.
yeah.
Images.
Well, because I feel like obviously he's a piece of shit and a roach of a human being. But I'm not saying that about his face just to hate on him. I like there's just something weird about his face, and I think that's what it is. Like everybody's got this, he's got this turkey neck, fucking looking like he's a bunch of weight. Fuck him and the horse he rode in on, but that's not why I don't think he can grow a beard. Like I do think he's a huge piece of shit. That's not. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
pretend
those things are separate.
completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause some people who can't grow beards are also nice people and good human beings. So I don't equate not being able to grow a beard with being a piece of shit human being. That's not the case.
Yeah.
I don't want those to get confused.
I mean, some people can't grow a full head of hair past puberty,
Right.
and so that's just genetics. They've got to keep their brain case nice and cool, um,
Mm.
and that's cool. We like our 5, 6, and 7 finger or 7 head friends. Foreheads are just the baseline. Oh man, the thing about evangelical Skeletor that really gets me is that even when there are actual facts that we can look up, he still recites this information that doesn't make any sense. And Cheeto does the same thing. I
I
mean,
think it's hilarious that the if you Google either one of them, I think the only image of them with facial hair is like fake facial hair. I don't know if Trump can grow a beard either.
You know, the first beard that I see with in images of Trump, it's a lawyer from Philadelphia and David Letterman.
There's a whole article about whether Donald Trump can grow a beard, and they're into the exact same shit I was talking about because it's like the news talkers they're talking about he's never shown an inkling of the beginning of any sort of beard.
That makes me wonder if Eric Trump or Donald Trump is actually his son because he's got a full face of hair.
Right, yeah, exactly. That dude couldn't have a baby face if he tried.
And Eric Trump, facial hair. Oh, he has facial hair. He must have got it from Ivana or whatever.
This is amazing. This is amazing because I hadn't ever thought about it, but when somebody the only images there's a long line of images of this person. The only images of them on the internet, entire internet with a beard are fake beards. That's crazy. That's craziness. How is that even possible? And even Obama has real beard images out there because people were photoshopping beards on him for a while, and there was that period where people were photoshopping like man buns on the presidents and beards and like making them look like hipsters and shit, which was hilarious. Like George W. with cornrows and a full hipster beard. That shit is hilarious. I don't care about your political views, but the fact that some of these images are the only ones of these people with actual beards on the entire fucking internet in the history of images and physical images right now, at least like I don't know if anybody's like framed it that way. Like we could put out a bounty for $1 trillion for a real picture of Donald Trump with a beard, and we never have to pay it because there's no such thing.
You don't think he would try to grow a beard just so he could collect?
Right, but he couldn't.
I,
But
I
he couldn't
I'm
do
sure
it.
that he would probably figure out a way to like bathe in Rogaine.
No, he would have done that by now. You think he doesn't want a beard? You think his ass beard to go with that comb over? Of course he does. If there was a treatment that he could buy, he would have done that shit a long time. And I bet he's tried. There's no way he hasn't tried. As much $70,000 on that hair, that bullshit ass hair,
Oh man,
a
yeah.
year. Oh, he's definitely spent money on trying to grow a
God,
beard.
he spends more on his hair than some people, some families, some households make in a year, and that's just sickening.
That's how I can 100% tell you he's tried to grow a beard, but there's no money on the planet that can buy him one, which is why it's fucking amazing. He,
Melania is his beard.
that's what it is, man.
He doesn't
And he
have to have a beard because Melania is the beard.
and she don't like him.
Yeah, that's and mother is evangelical Skeletor's beard.
She don't like him either. There's like reports where apparently after they became or after they won the election, there were reports of I guess I don't know who heard overheard it where he like tried to hold her hand or something and she like brushed him off and is like, I hope you're happy now that you got what you want and like storms off
Oh
and is
wow.
like nowhere wanting to be around it. So there's this obviously they got to keep up airs in public, but behind closed doors, neither one of their wives seem to like them at all. It sounds like, or what they're doing, which obviously them being their wives condones it by them not divorcing them. But there's a sense of they signed up for certain things, even in the like hey, Melania, all you want. She didn't sign up for this fucking 80 or in the 80s. That's not what
Yeah. I don't think that anyone signs up. like I don't think anyone in Trump's sphere signed up for anything thinking, yeah, we're gonna make it all the way to the White House.
No, there's no way. There's no way.
And that whole his whole enterprise is far too corrupt for that to ever have been like a legitimate. Let's do this. That's got to be a sign of mental breakdown. When the criminal thinks that they can become president, doesn't he? I mean, he realizes that at some point, once it's all over, there's going to be some insane investigation into everything that he's ever done because he's now the president. That won't protect him once he's done.
Yeah.
Fuck, I mean, Pelosi wants to push some
Uh,
legislation through to require like a fitness test, like a mental fitness test for the office for the executive branch. It might not get
oh,
pushed through unless JoJo wins the election. But even then,
he's definitely not going to be able to leave the country
no.
unless he just goes to his cousin Boris. To
Yuri,
this.
Yuri, they're after me. It's like, and
Yeah, they might let him in Russia.
he'll
Uh,
he'll be able to hang out with Steven Seagal.
yeah, I ain't letting his ass anywhere else once he's out of office. I
Yeah.
bet that's what he's just doing is traveling to his last little vacation spots, pretending I'm working right now. I'm just waving it like,
Well,
oh, I know that once I'm not president, they're not gonna let me back
so
here.
so in the news recently, it's come out that one of the flight travel assistants on JoJo's campaign has tested positive for COVID, and so the JoJo campaign is being put on hold for a little while. And of course, Cheeto Mussolini was, well, I'm not going to say he was released from the hospital. I'm pretty sure he just up and left, and they couldn't do anything about it. But he's been doing his campaign rallies and hosting rallies at the White House, which apparently is illegal because you're not supposed to use that. You just can't use the White House for political events like that. And his voice is so garbly with the COVID phlegm. He's got something going on, and so I saw this video. It's like a midday press conference, and he doesn't have his normal bright orange glow. It's like a different kind of reddish glow, and he's breathing more than normal. I mean, normally he's just like full of air, just talk and talk and talk and talk, but this time around he's taking breaths and it's coming out all like and it's really kind of messed up because here's this guy who's supposed to have defeated COVID, who one of his kids even said that he got a vaccine, and I'm still not sure if vaccines work that fast, but what do I
No,
know?
they didn't use the right word, obviously.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, he's got his Regeneron treatment and he's got the dexamethasone and he's on all these things that are reserved for severe cases.
He
And
got a therapeutic. He didn't get a vaccine.
yeah, well, of course, there is no vaccine yet. And
Yeah.
then Chris Christie, who got it from him, he recovered recently. Like he finally got out of the ICU today. And
Fuck that guy too.
yeah, fuck him too. Fucking fat fatty. He's got asthma. He's lucky he didn't die.
Yeah.
Um, Fuck, that guy sold so many fucking turnpikes and bridges and
Hmm.
bullshit in New Jersey.
Kept black people from getting land up there, so fuck him.
Yeah, fat fatty can fat off.
I have no sympathy or empathy for those people. None whatsoever. And I fucking laugh when they fucking have problems. I do. I can't pretend I don't because I don't want to pretend that I'm some fucking person that I'm not. So fuck him and fuck those people. It's I love it. I love seeing them suffer. I not gonna pretend I don't.
Yeah,
It's like when
the Schadenfreude, right?
candy. Oh no, it's way better. It's like eating candy.
Oh, it's better than Shadow Joy.
Like passive. This is like, oh, I'm gonna have a bowl of candy and enjoy this.
A bowl of
Like
candy with hot melted caramel.
I
And
feel like Schadenfreude is somewhat. There's some shame in the enjoyment, at least as far as it's wrong. but it happens anyway, and you kind of can't help it. Like, no, I'm actively enjoying this. Like I said, this is like if Schadenfreude had a big brother, this is it.
Let's see. What do you say dark in German? It'd be Dunkelfreud. Düsterfreud. Finsterfreud. Yeah. Finsterfreud. Dunkelfreud. That Dusterfreud sounds good too. Deep, dark, obscure. No, Dunkel is probably better. Finster has sinister in it though, but it also has somber and frowning. I don't think that's the right one. Delightfully dark.
Yeah, delightful is more like it. Delicious if they had.
Oh, here it is.
Mhm.
Ehrlich Dunkelfreud. H
That's
E
big
R
one.
R L I C H Dunkelfreud.
That sounds like a dude that has wacky adventures.
Ehrlich Dunkelfreud. That's like, man, if there was ever a character to emerge in like comics as the anti-hero, it's
Oh yeah, no, that's a good Ehrlich Dunkelfreud because
Ehrlich Dunkelfreud.
yeah, no man.
I feel like that's a Comedy Central Adult Swim level of character.
Yeah, just when when you have shit like The Boys out, where the whole premise of the show is getting revenge on shitty superheroes, there's definitely room for Ehrlich Dunkelfreud.
Yeah. Ehrlich Man, now I wonder if Ehrlich Dunkelfreud is a real person.
He exists in the ether.
Uh, no, I'm not seeing any. I think that we can claim this character Inception here. Ehrlich
Yep,
Dunkelfreud.
that character. That's how characters inception themselves.
Yep.
And to Bruce Wayne at one point. Fucking Bill Kane or Bob Kane and Bill Finger were sitting around bullshitting, and a wealthy, sadistic psychopath with a bad childhood story came to them and said, "Hi, my name is Bruce Wayne. You should write a story about me." And that's how that shit happened.
Yeah. I I wonder what OG like first edition the Batman would actually have to say about what the character has become now. Because I don't think that they would actually get along. I don't think that modern Batman would see OG Batman as effective.
Oh yeah, I mean superheroes didn't exist,
Yeah.
or supervillains. I mean,
Yeah. I
so
mean, even Cesar Romero Joker was like he wasn't psychopathic. He wasn't psychotic. He just told shitty jokes, and he was maniacal, but he didn't take it too far. Like killing Joker, he kills everyone that he can. He gets stabbed a whole bunch and he lives. Um, Death in the Family Joker, like a building collapses and we're meant to believe, oh, maybe he died, but we all know the Joker walked away from that after shaking the rubble off his jacket because he's that crazy. The current iteration of Joker is the guy that surfs a helicopter that has no rotors, that's on fire because it just got hit by a rocket, rides it all the way to the ground on the side of a skyscraper, and walks away shaking the dust and debris off his hair. Like, and he survives just by being so crazy and psychotic that the laws of physics don't seem to apply to him anymore.
Yeah, I think that is like what it is with his character is his psychopathy is his superpower in that yeah, walking in explosions and shit like that. It obviously is not meant to follow the rules of physics, but he's also meant to overcome physics but not be able to fly or some shit like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a weird character the way they've written him over time.
It almost makes me wonder if all of Batman is happening inside Bruce Wayne's drug-addled mind as he's held inside Arkham, and the Joker is just a manifestation of his own psychopathy.
I mean, that was like um they explored that in the comics and the Gotham show. I mean, obviously the Gotham show's referencing, but they've definitely done multiple times where
I mean, I know that Bruce has been committed, but and they try to frame it as that, but of course he always leaves the care facility and returns to his life as Bruce
so
Wayne.
I mean I'm saying the writers are aware of that storyline, so it's not as if they haven't thought of that and
Yeah,
made it something that's like part of that. I think that even makes it through on the animated series. They like do a variation on it
yeah.
because he the only way he knows he's being drugged and held in a lab is because he can't read, and he's like trained himself to know that if he can't read, he's dreaming.
Oh, that's right. That's like a Batman the Animated Series episode.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember that because the words were all garbled and weird.
yeah. So that's where I know they reference the shit from the comics in the animated series. Even then,
It's funny. I remember when I was younger, I saw that episode, and then I started trying to look for words in my dreams, and of course there were never any like street signs or big signs. Those weren't the things that I had dreams about, and most of my dreams that looked anything like a recognizable human reality were barely, you know, this dimension, this universe that we live in. The only thing that was human was me, and the rest was just something else. But I don't think I've ever been able to. You know what else? I can't ride a bike when I'm dreaming either. I've gotten on bicycles and just fallen over right away, and then of course I wake up immediately because I've rolled out of bed.
I think. Do you remember Batmite?
Yeah.
I think Batmite also is a character that they did a couple of times. He went crazy, and Batmite was like a manifestation of his psyche. And he was like, oh yeah, he was dressed in multicolored. He changed the colors of his costume to like purple and yellow, and um, I want to say it was like it wasn't quite rainbow because there's a rainbow Batman.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but when he went,
Batmite's he's got like power. He's like magical, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but he also is a story mechanism. So yeah, the time he went crazy, Batmite's there, but it's not really Batmite. Here, I'm gonna send you. It's in Beyond the Cow, um, and Batman R.I.P. But it's like yeah, a purple purple cape, red suit, and yellow arms. Batman of Zurin R. But he's
Whoa.
gone completely insane at that point, and
Wow.
he like he got buried alive, and he has an entire mental episode thinking that he's like running around the city, but he's actually buried in a coffin because the Joker had fucking he technically had beat him at that point, but he didn't realize he was beaten. And the whole series was supposed to be like, oh, Batman's dying, but they did this bullshit where that's what it was the entire time was Joker had spoilers, even though this is like really old. Joker had like gassed him and he had gone crazy, buried underground, and it was like his psyche keeping him alive that was having him run around with bat might in this fucking stupid looking costume that then when they obviously didn't kill him off, that's I'm like, man, fuck this. You guys suck. You can't say you're gonna kill Batman and then do this bullshit. Fuck you, I'm out. And that was kind of where I didn't touch Batman for a while. Like that felt like a really cheap storyline that if they didn't call it Batman RIP, it would have been cool. But that specific storyline really pissed me off because they were like making it seem like they were gonna kill off Batman like they did with Superman, and that's why nobody remembers it because they didn't actually fucking do it and they were just bullshitting. I was hoping they weren't. When I got to that panel where you find out it was just him having a fucking basically a fever dream or whatever
Yeah.
psycho dream. It's like, man, you lazy ass writers stealing my money because this was theft.
Oh man.
You dirty rat.
Yeah.
Uh,
I haven't
yeah.
paid attention to Batman at all, like since since the Christian Bale movies came out and everything was. No, that's not true. I watched the cartoon, the animated movies. I watched those when those come out, but I don't really. I feel like at best they just cover old ground. I feel like Death in the Family was a reiteration of like 5 episodes from the animated series.
Yeah, that's why I like death metal in that there's not a whole lot of Bruce Wayne hero stories left to tell.
Yeah.
Um,
Hush,
and
that was terrible.
yeah,
Um,
they've tried to they tried to fix the storyline with the animated movie, and then on Batwoman, but it's
yeah, I
just
mean, Hush was terrible. Uh, Killing Joke is good, but that was a good story. Um,
Hush is hacky.
yeah, but Justice League Dark wasn't very good. I liked it though, because it wasn't really a Batman story. It was more of a Constantine story. And Batman Bad Blood was that was just great. We got a whole
Oh,
there's a whole tribe of them now. Wonderful.
had you seen it? Have you seen Apocalypse War yet?
Yeah, I saw that one.
That's where it's like the if Justice League Dark and Apocalypse War were a single movie,
that would make sense.
yeah. But as two, they both feel like 7 out of 10s in that right now, DC's well, it's called Dark for a reason,
Yeah.
but it's just like, oh, this person dies and this person has their arm cut off. And what if we have Cyborg and tear him in half and he's just stuck up on a wall? And it's like, okay, this is gore porn.
Batman Harley Quinn was dumb. Son of Batman and Batman versus Robin were all right, but they don't have really any replay value. I think the best Batman character addition to any cartoon that I've seen in a while is actually the Lego movie.
I wouldn't be surprised by that.
I mean, Justice League, Teen Titans, Justice League. Actually, no. The one that they didn't have him in was Gods and Monsters, where Batman was a vampire. I actually liked that one a lot, where Zod came to Earth instead of Kal-El. That's the one. That's a good DC story. Assault on Arkham was meh. Um,
I'm really over Arkham related stuff.
Yeah, I don't really care for that whole Suicide Squad.
No.
Those stories aren't that interesting
Yeah.
because Deadshot's not really an anti-hero. He's not a very good anti-hero.
Um, yeah, I don't really like anti-hero stories are fun, but yeah, a team of anti-heroes is like, well, if they die, they die. I don't care. I you can't really get too invested in a team of anti-heroes. Like when you have one anti-hero and can tell a story about them that makes you care about them, that's one thing. That's why the Punisher works. Um, but that's why the Punisher has to team up with somebody like Daredevil, who's not really an anti-hero and is more of an actual hero.
Yeah. Batman Ninja was terrible.
Yeah, it was really bad.
I told people to watch it because I didn't want to be like I wanted to be able to talk about how terrible it was with people. But I recommended it to a bunch of friends. I was like, "Yeah, you got to watch Batman Ninja. You'll love it." And fully expecting people to be like, "Why did you tell me to watch that?" But that never happened.
Well, it's like you can't expect any story out of it. It's like good eye candy, 100%. So I
Yeah,
don't think anybody who got that recommendation was probably mad about it. But I don't even, there's no real story there. Like obviously there's a story, but it's not, it's not a real story. It's just like, how can we give Batman ninja armor, but give him a toy that we can, oh, I mean, not give him a toy. We have to be able to make a toy out of these things. We need like four different versions from one movie, but the movie can only be like 90 minutes long, or not even 90 minutes, maybe 70. So
it's a story where he takes too much of Scarecrow's hallucinogen and spends the entire night in the Batcave tripping out while Alfred brings him soup. That's what Batman Ninja is. Way too many drugs. They had to tie his ass down, and he had to write it out.
yeah,
It's funny. Like I complain about these things because I watch them, but at this point I feel like these stories are just yeah, man. They're just trying to create a toy. They're just trying to perpetuate the consumer cycle. I
I
can,
didn't even know that was the end of the movie because I don't even think I finished it. I was like,
oh, at the end of Batman Ninja, they make it back to modern Arkham. They
oh, okay.
everything comes together and they open up the portal and they go back home.
Yeah. I was like, oh, mm, that was a real weird one.
So earlier you sent me this link. It's about Alex Jones, and his apparently his lawyer says that Alex Jones no longer believes the Sandy Hook massacre was a hoax. And I think it's important to bring this up because here's a guy who got sued because he was going on his platform and saying, "Hey, this never happened. These are people are crisis actors," pissed off a bunch of people, and he's doubling back. But the whole time he's maintaining this whole just twisted microcosm of conspiratorial thinking and lies and providing the framework to develop other conspiracy theories for people or involving people. And there needs to be some way to, you know, there's got to be a way to measure the volume of damage that this man has actually done, that he's delivered at the hands or the ears of his listeners. I mean, how many people is he convinced to go and do some really dumb shit, or how many people's relationships have suffered because one person is listening to this windbag all the time?
I think he was the direct cause of that dude to show up at the pizza place with the fucking AK or the AR or whatever. I don't remember whatever penis replacement he had. He showed up with.
Yeah, apparently he Jones apologized for promoting the Pizzagate conspiracy. He,
Yeah, but he's the reason people showed up with guns. At least one dude, and I'm sure there's been more that the media has included because you don't do that shit for years and only have it happen once.
yeah. Well, I think
Oh,
it's got to be really similar to racial tension in this country. If you just turned on the news today, you'd think it was all just happening now, like it reached a boiling point. But it's been simmering or rapid boiling for years now.
hmm and
And
he a lot of it.
yeah, I think my first memory of Alex Jones and his style of rant comes from that movie Waking Life, where he's rolling around in his car, yelling at people through a bullhorn system that's attached to the top.
Yeah, he wasn't that crazy. I mean, obviously that part he's supposed to be eccentric, but his tone I think was a lot more about um, esoteric learnings that were not specifically about anti-government conspiracies. So he was like the DMT trip guy. I don't think he even said anything about DMT necessarily, but he was like the Joe Rogan before Joe Rogan became the Joe Rogan in Waking Life. And then um there was a book I read, and it covers his there's like a journalist who embedded with Alex Jones and was like doing a report on him while he did the documentary on um the out whatever the it wasn't the Bilderberger group. It was before the Bilderberger or Bilderberg group.
New York Times Magazine feature. I worked for Alex Jones and I regret it. It says, I dropped out of film school to edit for the conspiracy theorist because I believed in his worldview. Then I saw what it did to people. And that's the New York Times from 2019. I'm going to put this link.
Well, I think that might have been that dude. It might have been him wrote an entire book. I can't think of I feel like it's called They. Um, but he's like Alex Jones wasn't the complete focus of the book at first, and then it kind of became about him because this dude was like a
Mm.
serious journalist, and he had been embedded with like it wasn't a terrorist, it was somebody who was I think they might have been a witness in a terror incident or something. So this dude was like a legitimate journalist, and then he embeds with Alex Jones, and that's where it like takes a turn to where this dude is trying to figure out the level of the conspiracies that Alex Jones thought he discovered, and if they actually connected with the other shit.
Southern Poverty Law Center has Alex Jones listed as the most prolific conspiracy theorist in contemporary America. Um, Rolling Stone has outlined seven of his most batshit conspiracy theories. One is Satanists are taking over America. Bill Gates is a eugenicist trying to wipe out minorities. The government is controlling the weather. Hillary Clinton is running. Oh, that's Pizzagate. Uh, Government is complicit in countless terrorist and lone gunman attacks. Millions of undocumented immigrants illegally voted in the election. Former Fox News host Glenn Beck is a CIA operative. And then CNBC mentions, where is theirs? Government has weather weapons. Weather weapons. Oh, God. Chemicals in the water are turning frogs gay. Robert Mueller is a demon and also a pedophile. Sandy Hook was staged. Pizzagate. God. Weather weapons and chemicals to turn frogs gay. We talked about the Navy. Was the Navy? No, it was the Air Force. They were developing weapons to with
Yes,
the hormones to the gay bomb. So we talked about that not too long ago. And the weather weapon, a weather weapon. Turn on the rain, Ma. It's dry outside. You know, you'd think that if there was something that could control the weather reliably, then they could use it to, you know, make arid, formerly agricultural regions agricultural again and resupply them with water, or we wouldn't have vast expanses of our breadbasket drying out because the whole aquifer that lies underneath the central plains is drying out. Um,
oh, so I think the whole thing I was discussing was when do you know of Bohemian Grove
oh
and that
yeah, that man. I think
so a dude wrote a book about being with Alex Jones when that happened. And that's where like I can't think of it. I think um I can't like I said, I can't think of the name of the book, but there's an entire book about the experience. Um and the way it's written, it's called Them. It's called Them. I was not far off. It's not they, it's called Them. Adventures with Extremists by John Ronson. I'm so glad I figured it out. And like I said, I was one fucking letter off in that when obviously this book is from 2003, so this is not something I read like last year. I read this shit like over a decade ago. Um,
John
and
Ronson. That's a good name.
yeah, so this is what's so crazy about this book is when you read it, like I read it before Alex Jones had become super popular, but it was enough. He was big enough so that it was worth a read to know what was like. Oh, this is a good subject. Let me like read this book, and knowing what happened then to get to the point where we are now. He is 100% directly a cause of the environment that allowed QAnon people to pop up. So that's where that is all to say that now, decades later, after he's had his long career of influencing crazy people and racist people without any real actual repercussion, obviously he got deplatformed, but when he got that platform, what does that mean? Oh, they took his toy away. Not that big of a punishment. When that he's got millions of dollars left.
Well, he
I'm
still has his own server. He just wasn't able
oh yeah,
to
for sure.
to use YouTube. And what else did he
Well,
get
I mean,
deplatformed from?
he's got his own server, but he doesn't exist anymore, bro.
Yeah.
When we're talking about Alex Jones, this dude used to be everywhere. This dude does not exist anymore. I don't care if he has InfoWars. Like his little audience was only they only felt like something because he existed off of InfoWars. Like that's the key to Alex Jones's influences. Yeah, of course he's the same thing. When's the last time you heard anybody talk about Howard Stern? He's got millions of people who are have not stopped listening to him for fucking decades. but he don't influence shit anymore. There was a period where Howard Stern used to be super influential
Yeah.
in pop culture.
I used
Nobody
to
gives.
listen to him on the way to school when I was in high school.
Of course you did because he was that big.
Yeah.
Everybody used to listen to Howard Stern at one point in history in America. It was you just had to, otherwise you got left out. But that was a very brief window.
Um,
Like there was a movie about that dude.
yeah. Speaking of Howard Stern, I actually have seen his show somewhat recently, and he's working with a really nice, in a really nice room. Got a great view. Has a really
Right.
fancy desk. Has the nicest equipment. Has probably one of the nicest broadcast studios that I've ever seen, and it's every bit as much a broadcast studio as it is a video production studio, as it is a office, as a recording suite. And I know that you can't that just doesn't materialize unless someone puts in a lot of work and effort and time and develops a brand and all of that stuff. But I think he's way past the point of needing to even be an influencer. He's embedded. He's like let's see, what is it? Um, he has joined the pantheon. He's like Casey Kasem. Um, he'll never be forgotten in the history of radio, of talk radio, because he didn't, for all the people that he made mad. I can't, I don't know. Did Howard Stern ever say any really salacious shit?
I mean, he routinely said racist shit, but it was like never to the point where he's like, oh, he's saying N word this, N word that. Because he had Robin there, he was able to say racist shit and diffuse it being by having a black woman in the room as his shield, as his human shield. That's what it is.
No, it's a good thing Robin was there then, because
I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing in that that's what that's how he uses her. Like anytime people use black people but in their proximity to say some racist shit, that's the equivalent of a human shield.
yeah,
Not a good thing. That's like what people do when they're fighting
you
an
know, you're
oppressed.
right. He let her get fired. He said that she said the I don't even know what she said, but she got fired for something that he said. They made a big point of that in that movie, and they also got to play themselves in the movie. There's only like one guy that didn't get to play himself, and then they have him at the end of the movie talking shit about how like Howard and Robin got to be in the movie, but he only got like 30 seconds at the end. You know, if racists who make salacious comments on the air on their talk show, their daily talk show, can rise to the top of the industry, what's that say about the industry? What does it say about the audience?
Yeah, I don't know, man. And that it it it's come a long way since what's that show? Loveline.
With Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla.
Yeah. Remember when Adam Carolla was giving people advice?
God, that's a guy that never should have been giving advice.
Yeah, so
I wonder what happened to Dr. Drew
sure.
though. He's still around.
Hmm. He was doing like celebrity rehab or some shit.
Celebrity Rehab ended in 2012. Did
Oh,
On
same.
Call till 2016. Um, he says, "Don't panic over the coronavirus." I think that we can all agree that, having watched him give advice on television for the last 20 years, that it's a bad idea to listen to him. Loveline since '96. Holy shit, that show's on the air. Loveline is still on the air.
What?
1983, Loveline, syndicated radio call-in program in North America. Yeah, home station. KROQ from 83 to 2018, and then KQPS Channel Q from 2018 to the present. And they were on MTV from 96 to 2000. Um, Drew Pinsky is not one of the current hosts, though. Let's see, who are the current hosts? Who does it say? Um, Amber Rose and Chris Donahue. I don't know who either of those people are.
Oh, Amber Rose is the chick that used to. She's like a porn star, right? She used to date Kanye. Like, I
Um,
wonder if she's actually a porn star. Oh,
oh,
she's a,
she's a
she,
model. She was with Young Jeezy.
oh, she was a stripper first. I mean, not to say she's not a model now, but that's where it's like, she's got no
Oh, yeah.
qualification.
She
Like,
claims to have begun stripping at the age of 15 under the pseudonym Paris.
there's no reason she should be giving people advice like that. Zero.
Yeah. Well, you know, if this is where if people are looking to these kinds of shows for advice, I don't think I don't think it's I don't think they're doing that. I think people are calling that stuff in because they realize that it's like Maury or what was that show with the former mayor of Cleveland? I can't remember. Jerry Springer show. I think it's
Mm.
stuff like that where people know that if they get on the air, they get to enjoy telling some story and hearing some talking heads babble on about, you know, the limited amount of information that was delivered in their phone call. And then they get to create a story that now is embedded into the ether and may find its way into a television show at some point.
Oh, I guess the Donahue dude is a doctor, so I guess that makes sense in that one of them, at least one of them, has to be a actual medical doctor for that shit to make sense. Like, otherwise, well, because they didn't list like that's. Oh wait, mm, he's got a PhD, so that's questionable. I don't know. Like, I don't know about. I feel like somebody should be an MD in that position.
Let's see. What is he, like a psychiatrist? Is he
Psychotherapist,
a psychotherapist? Yeah, so he studied psychology for a long time.
but that doesn't necessarily mean he has a medical license
Ooh, yeah.
because a psychotherapist to me indicates that he's not prescribing like a if he doesn't have psychiatrists listed, it might be because he's not licensed to.
Let's see. He has
um
lectured at USC, UCLA, and Princeton. Um, American Association for Sex Educators, Counselors, and Therapists, and the Society for the Scientific Study of Sexuality. Let's see. He is a doctor of clinical sexology and human sexuality, and he has doctoral trained in clinical psychology. He's a licensed clinical therapist and a certified sex therapist and certified sexologist. So this dude's into sex. He practices general psychology. Wait, is that even a thing? And specializes in individual and couple sex, relational, and marital therapy. And
I feel like all this is to say he can't give prescriptions.
yeah, I'm not. He's a member of the American Association of Sex Counselors, Educators, and Therapists. Oh, I already said all this stuff. It's just like repeating itself. Well, what kind of prescriptions would a sex therapist write? Go home and masturbate? Go home
I
and
don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't think they can. I don't think they like a medical doctor can give you a prescription for Viagra. A sexual therapist can't.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a huge difference. Like, and that's where I think they're dancing around. Like a PhD is not. anything to like laugh at, or it's not a um
Yeah.
qualify him from discussing certain things at all and makes him an expert in certain things. However, when we're talking about anatomy, it seems like an actual MD would be. That's where I'm like, a PhD feels like they're trying to trick people by giving, like, in the same way when they have Dr. Oz, who is an MD, talking about shit that he shouldn't be talking about, like family problems or stuff that an actual psychologist should be talking about. Because people let doctors drift into things that they're not doctors in because doctors, and that's something that gets to be super dangerous when somebody's like a doctor of philosophy in something that has a practice doctorate associated with it.
Yeah, a clinical psychologist generally cannot prescribe medications, although some states will allow
Yeah,
it. Um,
exactly.
I'm
You
not
have to be
seeing sexologist anywhere in this
basis.
list. This
Oh
is
God, there's no way.
this is from the mental health America national.org types of mental health professionals.
And it's not to say that somebody who can't prescribe can't discuss these things. It's a matter of, especially when you're talking about sex, there's a lot of hormonal balance and chemical balance involved to the point where when somebody's trying to discuss that from a purely psychological angle and a purely uh,
Yeah, he is a licensed clinical social worker with a state issued license to practice in the state of California. Um, no complaints. He's licensed as an associate clinical social worker. He's yeah, he can't prescribe medicine.
which obviously he's not prescribing medicine over on Loveline. It's just a matter of when
Oh,
people hearing this.
it says most recently, Donahue claims to have earned a PhD in clinical sexology and human sexuality and began adding the title doctor to his name. However, he remains extremely evasive about where he earned this degree, making no mention of it in his book or on his website, and openly ignores fans who inquire about it.
Ah, it's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
My
it gets even better. Some outlets have interviewed
oh,
him, having mistakenly listed his degree as being in clinical psychology, leading to a misrepresentation that he's a psychologist rather than a social worker.
yeah, my bullshit detectors were
Yeah.
definitely.
uh, People are speculating, fans speculate that his PhD comes from an unaccredited school. Then it's not a PhD.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
So
if
these are the people that get influence
well,
because they.
maybe it's like in the great Southern tradition of plantation admirals and plantation colonels, where it's just a title to him, and it's not a real title. It's like a character's title in a TV show.
Yeah, Dr. Dre's not a real doctor. So
Straight
why
up.
can't I? I'll just call myself doctor. Works, right?
But apparently, oh man, imagine how embarrassed somebody would feel, like thinking they're talking to a doctor, only to learn that it's just a title for a TV show.
Mhm.
Well, I'm not that
Like
kind of doctor.
well, there's whole people who've been fooled into thinking that Chris Donahue somehow has the authority to speak on these things when all he's doing is lying his way to the top. That's clearly what that dude did. And he's like lying his way to get close to Amber Rose. And it's like, he made, like, he's lying when he let Amber Rose think she's qualified to talk on the subject.
Yeah.
That's how you know that dude's lying. He just wants to fucking get close to her. It's like anybody who's not trying to fuck Amber Rose will be like, Amber, I love you, dear, but you got to let somebody who's actually an expert help kids with these subjects. You don't need to be helping kids with these things. If you want to help kids, let an expert talk, dear. Because that's how somebody who's not trying to fuck her would approach that subject. But that's why Chris Donahue, oh no, I'll have you as my host. You can come on and I'll be the expert and you can be the fun perspective from, you have experience in real life. You can talk about this stuff. Oh no, don't worry about it. You don't need a degree. That's what he's doing, trying to fuck her. And somebody as an executive, oh yeah, trying to fuck her too. You can go ahead and maybe she'll fuck me if I let you guys have a show. That's how these dudes are thinking about that shit. Because there's no reason Amber Rose should be helping anybody with their love. Like maybe some advice to her girlfriends, but not like real people with real lives. That's how we end up with like a shitty society with kids that grow up listening to WAP and idolizing Cardi B because they needed advice. And Amber Rose was the only one that they could talk to. Again, nothing against Amber Rose individually. I'm sure she's a lovely human being, but nobody that's not her friend should be getting advice from her about anything related to their genitals. Just period. Because she fucked Kanye. Like that disqualifies her from giving advice, except to her friends. Like that right there. Like Kanye, whatever. But when you are in a position of like influence and then you're saying, oh, I'm going to do a slut walk and I'm going to encourage girls to take back the word slut and take back the act of being a slut. You can fuck whoever you want, girl. You go ahead and fuck. You don't have to walk around with your head down. And it's like, that's that's not it's not wrong to empower women to take ownership of their sexuality. That's not wrong at all. But the way she did it and the group on which she focused was because she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. So then she's turning around telling a bunch of teenage girls basically it's okay to be a slut. And that's why she shouldn't be fucking influencing people. Shit like that. Shit like the slut walk. Because then it's like, obviously, we have problems with the way boys and by proxy teenage young men are raised to deal with and how they're like viewing women. And that is a whole different issue. And that's kind of where, again, we can't have the people who are influencing the kids in such a binary dialogue where it's either be a slut or no fap November. You don't look at girls. You conserve all your man energy because you're alpha. You eat steak and you don't look at women. And there's no moderate middle ground.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why does it have to be so hyperbolic? Why does it have to be like nothing, all or nothing?
Exactly. It doesn't.
Why?
But those are the extremes that we have. It's like I didn't make that shit up.
No,
I'm just
yeah.
you.
The idea is like no fap November. Can't even look at women. Can only look at can only eat steaks and look at the newspaper or something like that. That seems like a really
Only work on your gains.
that's the kind of thing that only works in a movie or a TV show in a montage and maybe it doesn't even work there, but it's the kind of thing that like sets people up for failure. At some point, we got to start asking, when is society going to start setting people up for success? Like everybody. I mean, obviously, some people are set up for success because of genetic lottery, but if we're all paying taxes and we're all working together to create a better society, at some point we should all, you know, there should be a way to actually set people up for success. And I'm making an actual my complaint really is that public education itself is being eroded in front of us, and no one really seems to care. I just read I read pretty regularly actually that people are, you know, very concerned about, how their kids are going to receive an education in these times of COVID. And we know that people of means are going to be able to facilitate homeschooling because there'll be some kind of transition, but they have resources. But for
So
a single parent, they're not going to be able to stay home with their kid and make sure their kid gets an education.
these people have entire actual schools built for their 3 and 4 children. I mean, it may
Yeah,
be small, but they have everything that they need for a fucking school building. I just saw one yesterday when I'm like, okay, this exists here. I can't imagine what's in like Silicon Valley in like
yeah,
super wealthy areas. This is like just a random ass person country in Indiana in a rural, like a rural big property. But this isn't, like I said, this isn't the Silicon Valley kids where if these people can afford that shit, I can only imagine what these rich, like super rich kids, like micro schools are looking like, man. And on the one hand, obviously they have a leg up, but in tandem with this Lori Laughlin bullshit, this is also why um, the Orthodox post industrial colonial education system is going extinct quickly because everybody knows that the only way to get ahead is if you're rich, and if you're a non-white person of any gender, then you're going to be in a position where you can't get a leg up even if you get a doctorate. Like you get multiple doctorates, and because you're competing with somebody whose parents just bought them the doctorate and basically bought them um the work, they bought them somebody to do the work for them, they bought them somebody to fill out the tests. That's what you're competing with. You can't beat that person, and there's no actual overcoming it. So that's why more and more people are going to stop trying to compete in that system. And it's like, even in the sense of, that's why I think you have a lot of people in the black community who quickly turn to like trying to sell drugs or trying to rap or trying to do some other shit than what other people are saying. Oh, this is the sure route where you go to get an education and you come out and get a job. Actually, no, we have proof that that route does not result in the same gains and returns as if a white male, or even not white women, because they don't get the same returns either. But we know that none of us can go down that same path and get the same returns. So few of us are doing it. And that's kind of where you can only convince people to sheepishly walk that path for so long before all the sheep die off from either COVID being marched, they got death marched and kept on, or they got too tired and couldn't keep walking, so they stopped marching. So there's only a limited time where people keep marching through this bullshit academia, um, pseudo meritocracy, where again, if I, if somebody could get a doctorate and guarantee that they could get equal treatment as a white dude with a doctorate, then they do it. and for the same reasons, but they can't. So it's not some. It's something that's going to happen less and less frequently because people will be able to find other ways to subsist without following the bullshit path that they laid out before and said this is the way. Because now we all know it's not real. We all know that college degree to the job, that's not fucking real. It was all a lie. And we all know that shit now. So now a lot of us are trying to figure out, oh, yeah, I can get a degree, but it's not for this reason. It's to start down another path. And the degree isn't actually for them, it's for me. And there's all these other ways of thinking about it, in that, um, again, when you stop trying to appease the patriarchy and their rule sets, but you do things for yourself, then you start creating your own path, and it doesn't go where they want you to. So it don't. You can get a doctorate and still not be on the path of the patriarchy. You just have to get the right doctorate.
So, uh, education in the United States in 2020, it is estimated revenue. No, in 2019, the estimated revenue for the industry was $71.8 billion, and it was generated by sub-industry, business schools, computer and management training, um, training and resource distribution. Essentially, it was buying desks, buying computers. So education is there's a big component of it is buying stuff and training people for jobs that will disappear. And it's estimated that by 2030, jobs like travel agent, cashier, fast food cook, mail carrier, bank teller, textile worker, printing press operator, sports referee, retail jeweler, dispatcher, lumberjack, telemarketer, fisher, legal secretary, assembler, or fabricator, these jobs will go away.
Dude, I just figured it out. You just made me realize why they were trying to push so hard to get people back in school. It all just suddenly became clear. So, I don't know how many people are familiar with how school books get printed for young people, but basically, Texas determines what goes into kids' school books.
Yeah, that's been the
So,
standard for like decades, hasn't it?
because of the printing process, that is why, because the printing houses have been homed there in a way that it's their school districts that are then going to decide what goes into all the books because of the local printing presses. Well, if everything's digital, all of a sudden, you don't have that fucking problem.
Yeah.
And you can't put out propaganda and use Texas as a fucking excuse. So all of a sudden, them hiding Tulsa, the Tulsa riots, all the riots that they've hidden by having Texas as their excuse to push out a white supremacist history book, all of a sudden you can't have that. And now we have no excuse for somebody in fucking Illinois, somebody in Delaware, somebody in Florida to be reading a history book that was fucking decided in Texas, in racist ass fucking Texas. Now all of a sudden that shit's gone.
Racist.
That's why, beyond them not caring about human life, that specific reason is why they're trying so hard to fucking push kids back into school. I know it. I knew there was something. I knew there was something. It's the fucking propaganda machine that starts with the goddamn school books in Texas, man. That's the shit right there. That is the fucking machine. And right there is how you get kids who grow into adults who don't know about fucking colonialism, is through Texas fucking books. We're if we can go through next year and stay digital, we can dismantle the Texas propaganda machine.
So, of that
We close.
$7.8 billion, the global education market cap is estimated to be 5.8 billion, or no, 5.8 trillion for the global industry. Holy shit! I need to do some math here. 5.8 billion. So America represents 1.28% of. Oh, I still did that wrong. It represents 12.8% of the education industry. How many people are there on Earth? Seven, almost 8 billion.
Even though we represent 4%, 4.2% of the population.
4.2% of the population, of global population, represents 12% of the total expenditure of education compared to the rest of the world. And we're still getting our students' test scores are still getting beat by China and Japan,
We
and
still have people who don't wear
we
masks.
still have people who don't wear masks. Oh god, it gets worse. We still have people who don't believe in science, and they spend untold amounts of money to educate people, and it's not. Oh man, it's not working.
Is it to educate or is it to indoctrinate?
Oh,
Because that's why we have those fucking Texas books, man.
uh, I'm pretty sure that those words mean the same thing depending on which side of the table you're on.
Yeah.
I think that the people who are in charge of the books, they know that it's indoctrination. Some of them
Oh,
probably believe that they're helping to educate because they've been indoctrinated so thoroughly.
yeah.
But
Oh yeah. 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 Those people.
I bet,
Woo.
I bet, I bet these are the same. Yeah, they've got to be the same people that refuse to believe that a broad understanding of history and context is education. That they believe that that is in fact indoctrination, which is dangerous because exposure to the history and the context is the only thing that separates a bunch of words from being true or being a lie or being completely fabricated for the benefit of a small group of people. I wonder. I mean, I know that like coded language is used really heavily within like the political marketing, but I wonder how much of that is actually. I mean, how much of that do people actually know is a coded language, or are they just so deeply indoctrinated that those words they don't see them as coded; they just see them as part of being patriotic. Like, like Cheeto uses the word globalist, which is apparently a term for is a derogatory term for Jewish people, and
Oh, I did not know that.
yeah, I just learned that today, and
Me too. Apparently, I
yeah,
was today
I
years
was
old.
fucking today years old when I found out that a globalist is a derogatory term for Jewish bankers
Whoa.
and Jewish people. Um,
Yeah.
and so, you know, if 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 he's using this kind of language, do these people even realize that they're hearing? That's what they're hearing, or do they know? And if they know, that does that? I almost feel like that makes it even worse. They know and willingly support. If they're just being duped, then yeah, they're just idiots. But if they know that when someone refers to a globalist, they're making a derisive remark about Jewish people, at what point do I mean? There are other people who know this because I had to find out about it somehow. I shared it with you. Anyone who's listening is listening now. At some point, I mean, people know what these terms mean. Why aren't they saying these things until now? Why isn't this why isn't this coded language being shared if we know that that's what these terms where these terms come from? Like, I guess I just don't understand why people feel like there's some kind of need to hold on to information until it's the right time.
Well, at the same time, like, how are you going to learn about that unless you're friends with fucking racist people?
Yeah.
You gotta be friends with somebody who hates Jewish people to learn that shit. Apparently, but
Fuck.
I ain't.
I fucking heard it on a podcast. A guy was talking about he was complaining. complaining about the language that comes out of the White House.
Mhm.
I mean, that makes me wonder: do our journalists even know what some of these words mean, or are they just reporting because they need a job?
Oh yeah, they're definitely not doing real checks.
Can the can the reporters who actually do that kind of stuff get deployed, or are they like banned from White House press corps?
They definitely get banned because remember when Helen Thomas got banned?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. This isn't the first administration that banned people though. People get banned from press corps all the time. It's just a matter of what agency they work for.
Yeah, but again, the people who are now saying everybody needs to follow law and order are the same ones that act like the journalists aren't getting banned and act like that's not some shit that happens in a fascist ass country. So again, they know they're fascists. They're fighting Antifa because they are the fascists and they know it. They're just trying to pretend that it's about patriotism. When in fact, obviously patriotism was a code word from some racist ass white men who owned slaves. So patriot is not a good is not it's only a good word to white supremacists, as
See,
far as I can tell.
I mean, is patriotism really that different from nationalism?
Nope.
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to wonder. Like, according to thoughtco.com, the words patriotism and nationalism were once considered synonyms. They've been taken on different connotations. In contrast, feelings of nationalism. I just lost it.
Somebody realized they have to have a way to make it seem positive. So they're like, oh, you're patriotic. Yeah.
Patriotism has to do with the homeland, um, feelings of attachment, further bound up by factors like race or ethnicity, culture, religious beliefs, and history, historical perspective. Um, let's see. Okay, here we go. Both feelings of love people feel for their country, the values of which those feelings are based, are very different. Patriotism is based on the positive values the country embraces, like freedom, justice, and equality. Patriot believes both the system of government and the people of their country are inherently good and work together for a better quality of life. In contrast, feelings of nationalism are based on the belief that one's country is superior to all others. It also carries a connotation of distrust or disapproval of other countries, leading to the assumption that other countries are rivals. While patriots do not automatically denigrate other countries, nationalists do,
Shit.
sometimes to the point of calling for their country's global dominance. Nationalism, though, through its protectionist beliefs, is the polar opposite of globalism.
Uh, there we go with that globalism again.
Yeah, so globalists and globalism. Apparently, the
Mm.
nationalism is in opposition to Jewish bankers. That's even better. Great. Patriotism versus nationalism arose as a political issue with Cheeto Mussolini and French President Emmanuel Macron, uh, verbally sparring over the meaning of the terms. Yeah, I think at this point patriotism has been absorbed into nationalism.
Yep. At least the way that they act.
God, you know, at some point there's got to be some kind of re-education to occur. I, I also read recently that the woke movement was all about black people finally gaining access to resources and finding jobs and becoming successful, and how it was usurped by housewives in the suburbs, by white women in the suburbs who were now aware of the plight of not having access to resources. God,
Uh,
globalism, fucking
yeah,
assholes.
man.
Exceptional Radio. Exceptional Randos Show is produced live in Sunroom Studios' Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening. Well, that was random. Exceptional Radio.